Morning, folks. Hi to everyone. 11 o'clock on a Thursday. We're back. Agent Box with me, Sham, and
Abir, I hope you miss me. It's been a while. It feels
yeah,
like it's been a while. But I've been
I think last week. Well, I can't even remember now. Last week whether I did it. Did we have a show last week? I think I did. I was on my own. I think it was the week before. No, last week.
yeah.
We didn't have a show last week, and the week before that I was on my own because I was traveling last Thursday. How are you anyway, man? How's it going?
All good, all good. Back in the UK, enjoying the spring or
Yeah.
so-called.
How was the trip, man? Anyway.
It was great. I felt it was very productive. It was a bit hectic, tiring, but very productive. And I felt that the market for UK is coming back. So that's a good sign, I would say.
Good stuff, man. It's like with me, I was in Turkey over the weekend and late last week, and then over the weekend again, really good discussions. Seems to be that there is definitely buoyancy for the UK in the market. People were very, very, confident that they can get students in. So yeah, it's all good, man. And I've been doing some follow-up work with India as well, and that seems to be going positively well.
And you were you were constant in touch with various universities as well. You were having some good conversations.
Yeah. I mean, look, the unis are telling me that there is obviously a downturn in applications, right? Based on this time last year. But what the explanation that a lot of the universities are giving themselves, but they're also giving us, is that the last 3 years we saw an unprecedented number of applications that came through. It was a very sudden spike, a very abnormal kind of scenario. And what a lot of universities are telling me is that the market is now settling back down to possibly pre-pandemic levels. And the biggest challenge I think most universities are facing is that China hasn't bounced back yet. China is causing a bit of a problem for a lot of universities, and a lot of us might not be aware or might forget that China plays a massive role in UK numbers. You know what I mean? Compared to even places compared to places like India and Nigeria, which are strong markets for the UK, but China is by far the biggest, and when that's affected, it has an impact on the universities. But what I'm hoping for is that companies that we work with, that we talk to on a regular basis, there should be enough business in the market for people to feel confident that they can bounce back, and numbers will be fairly good. But anyway, dude, okay, look, it's great to have you back. That's the first thing. And we've got something that I want to talk about this week that I've had a little bit to do with this issue. That's advertising. Are we at risk of being labeled as misselling or labeled as bad actors? What do I mean by this, right? What it is, Amir, you'll know this, that agents are advertising on multiple channels, multiple social media channels, on print channels, on all sorts of different places and ways. And people are being very innovative when they're advertising their partner universities or universities that they're working with, or, routes to study and this, that, and the other, right? So what's the problem? People have been doing this for decades, okay? There has been, certainly towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, there's been a focus on what are agents saying in their advertising. Okay. I mean, look, you tell me, when in your previous roles, what were you guys doing in terms of advertising? What kind of channels were you guys using?
We use a lot of channels, but coming back to the point first, because very early in my career in the industry, someone experienced in the industry told me one thing, and I took that with me all along, that in this industry, you have to be very careful about what you are saying. Otherwise, it's always going to come back and haunt you later. So you have to be, in a way, you have to use language like a lawyer, if that makes any sense. So you always have that flexibility, and also you are not accused of being misselling or being a bad actor. To be honest, being a bad actor, go on.
No, what I was going to say, while you were talking, what just reminded me there, that even at the universities we used to do this, right? It's like the amount of caveats that you would put on any statement that you made. I'll give you an example, right? So I used to get a lot of agents saying to me, "Oh, can you do spot admissions? Okay, if we're traveling to a particular country, or can you do spot admissions?" And throughout my career, I've done these spot admission sessions all over the world. Okay, where students come along and you look at their paperwork, and then you give them a decision, right? And you give them a piece of paper, a letterheaded, that basically says, yeah, I'm assuring you, you're going to get a place. But if anybody ever read those letters properly, okay, then those letters would say a lot of different things in the small print, okay? So this is subject to, if you look at this, subject to what? Subject to you putting a full application in, subject to you not lying to me, subject to these documents that I've seen, other documents that are correct. And at the end of the day, would also say, and it would be at the discretion of the admissions. Yeah. So actually, what I've given you is meaningless. Okay.
Yeah. It's just an acknowledgement that we might take you.
But you couldn't say, in reality, the reality was, we desperately wanted to see these students. We wanted to talk to them. We wanted them to feel assured that they had a place. But because of the rules, we couldn't then just say, yeah, of course, we're going to take you. And there is something in the UK, certainly, and there are versions of this in Australia, Canada, and other markets, something called the CMA, right? Which is the Consumer Marketing Authority. So anything you sell in the UK, whether it's a matchstick or whether it's a car or whether it's whatever, right? You're governed by the Consumer Marketing Authority. That means if you're going to make any claims, you put anything out there about whatever it is you're selling, this authority will be involved, right? They can regulate you, they can find out about you, etc. So every university, although it's a university offering education and changing lives for millions of people around the world, essentially they are selling something, whether they're selling it to a British student or an international student. So therefore, the universities are also governed by the CMA, all right, Consumer Marketing Authority. And the Consumer Marketing Authority is where a student, a parent, whoever it is, general public, can go to complain about a university saying something. Okay, so there is absolute paranoia in university marketing departments as to what they're saying and the impacts that it might have in the CMA, because there are some very sharp penalties. Now, imagine this scenario. So I'm the university, I'm putting out stuff on social media, I'm advertising this, that, and the other, and I've got CMA rules that I need to worry about. The marketing director has given me a very complicated set of rules that I need to work within. Brilliant. Okay. So for example, I can't use an image that doesn't belong to my university. Okay. Some universities will allow stock images that you have a license for, but almost certainly the places that I've worked, it's about using images that belong to you, right? Now,
intellectual property rights, I believe.
Yeah. There's all sorts of little things like this. You can't guarantee scholarships, although they are guaranteed. Like the discounts that are guaranteed, you still can't guarantee them because rules might change. And at the point that you put the advert out, or the email, even email communications, it's not just about adverts, right? So I'm emailing all of my agents about something. I can't just put something in there that's, hey, look, it's an email, it's not an advert, it doesn't matter. No.
Anything that goes out there needs to be qualified.
I'll tell you this as well. Technically, if a university issues an offer in error, okay, the university has to maintain that offer, okay, and that is because
I believe they give a lot with the universities.
I mean,
it's your fault. Yeah, you put that in writing, so.
Exactly. I've faced this problem time and time again, where we've had somebody in the admissions team has basically made an offer for a student, although they didn't quite meet the entry criteria. Okay, but the offer was made. Once the offer's made, it's very difficult then for you to retract that, because the consumer has rights. The consumer has rights. You should have known that. You've made an offer. Now you as a university have to put in all the other checks and balances to help make sure this student gets through the course. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if a student doesn't meet the entry criteria and the university makes an offer by mistake, it's silly for the student to accept that offer because they're not going to pass the course. They might be able to get in, but they're not going to pass the course. So, let's be mindful of what we're saying here. But nevertheless, it is something that, universities are paranoid about. Now, imagine this. Well, now we go on to agents. So I've signed up an agent, right? And this agent, I've signed them up and I've said, look, I need you to help me recruit students. At the point of signing, obviously, it was like, look, man, I need X number of students from your region. Come on, you're going to help me out, blah, 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 all of that. This agent, and I give them a whole bunch of material that, look, here you go. Here's some, marketing bits and bobs. Now, pretty much I leave that agent alone to advertise however they want to advertise. And I don't necessarily tell them about the CMA. I don't tell them because I might not. It's just something in the background. I'm not, I might have somewhere in the contract. In the contract, there will be statements in the contract that govern what it is that you can say as an agent. But of course, the agent doesn't read that.
Again, a reminder: read what you sign.
Yeah, exactly. But and also the international office. Like when I was working as an international officer, or when I've worked as head of international projects, or associate director, I've not. I'm just happy. Here you go. A legal team have written the contract. Here you go. Here's the contract. Great, done. I just want you on board. I want to rush through this process so that I can start talking to you about students, and let's get some students in front of what's going on. But the contract does govern. There are statements, clauses in the contract that will tell you that if you say something that is not correct, or that is it's not even about factually incorrect. So of course you need to, there's the issue of fact checking, which we can come on to, but it doesn't feel good, doesn't feel right, then that potentially is a problem. And you could end your...
Of course, and even some universities will be very concerned about which logo we are using. Is it the correct logo that we're using for promotion? The right
Abir, I have worked at universities where your email font, the font on your email has been agreed upon by marketing. So you cannot send any emails out unless you use that font.
And branding colors and all those nuances as well.
Yeah. So, and things like, if the logo doesn't look right, this, that, and the other. But let's go back to the topic at hand. Before we do that, I just need to, sort of say that, look, we've got email addresses at the bottom. We've got phone numbers. I think our social media platforms, websites and stuff like that have all gone live. We do want to hear from you guys in terms of how you feel about advertising, and do you ever consider that you might be labeled as a misseller? I'd be interested. Definitely, I think both of us would be interested to hear that. But also, again, I need to mention that SAM CRM sponsors the Agent Box. And if you're in the market looking for a CRM system, then please head over to their website. That's www.samcrm.co.uk, and you can get yourself a demo booked and have a look and see what's going on. It's all free at the point of demo in a trial, and see whether their CRM system works for you. But okay, so let's go back to this issue of, are we at risk of being labeled? If, for example, right, I'm going to give a couple of examples. Let's say, for example, that the government makes an announcement. The government says something about, take, for example, restricting dependents coming to the UK that they did from January, right? Now, we all know that there are legitimate routes for students, for the right kind of student, to come to the UK and bring their dependents, whether that you do a PhD, whether you do an MRes, there are routes to do that, right? But if we go out into the market full steam ahead and say, right, you know what? I know of a way around this. You're presenting it like a loophole, then that could get picked up by a university and actually, like, hang on a second, no, we don't want that. Do you know what I mean? That is you misselling. Do you know what I'm saying? Or I'll give you another example. So, and I've come across this a lot. Let's say, for example, right, you've got a student who could get onto a year one program, and this has been in the news recently anyway. So they could get onto an undergraduate year one program, but you've got a great relationship with your pathway provider. Pathway provider may or may not be, giving you more commission rates, but actually it's a borderline case, and you decided, maybe genuinely and in the right way, that actually I'm going to put that kid into international year one. But actually, at the back of your mind, you know that I'll get, I'll carry favor with the pathway provider. I'll get invited to the next conference that's coming up. It'll be good fun. This could be seen as mis-selling. And if you're promoting this, okay, as a way of attracting more students in your advertising, for example, don't have the grades to get onto undergraduate year one. Come and talk to me. I know a way to get in, right? That is what's wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? That
So I think when I look at the adverts, most of the adverts that our regular agents do is sort of this sort of masses going out. So how would you personally go about advertising this?
The way I would talk about that is multiple options for entry are available. You understand? So you're promoting the university, you're promoting University X, course Y, and you're saying this is the target. This is what I'm presenting to you as an agent, and I want you to think about considering. Now there are multiple routes onto that program. Come and talk to us. Rather than don't have the grades, no problem. That to me could be a problem.
Exactly. To be honest, to all our agent friends, that the message that masses is kind of similar saying. We are attracting the students, but what we are saying is very, very, very important here. Rather than being accused of mis-selling, we could be more constructive in our words.
Yeah, this is my point. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form. I think of the hundreds, if not thousands, of agents that I've come across in my career, I know agents are legit. They are working to, and they work very hard to get students in. It's not an easy task. It's a very complicated, and it's a very time-consuming, almost soul-destroying at times when you're dealing with students and you're having to manage the relationship between the student and the university. So this is a hard, there are hard-working people involved in this. But what I'm trying to say in this session is that maybe we need to think a bit more carefully as to what we're saying in our adverts, because we're almost selling ourselves short and we're putting ourselves at risk of being labeled as something. Do you understand?
Now, I would like to talk about, like, what if I'm mis-selling? What are the consequences? Why are we talking about this?
Okay. So at the end of the day, look, at the end of the day, let's take this statement. Don't have the grades, you can still get in, right? There's nothing wrong in that. Absolutely nothing wrong in that. Okay. There's in terms of the technical aspect, there is nothing wrong in that statement, because that's essentially what we are saying, that if you don't have the grades, I can still get you in. Okay. Where does this become mis-selling, right? This becomes mis-selling on a couple of different cases, and I'm going to give you some real life cases that I've come across where students have turned up at the university. They thought, great, I'm doing, the international year one is a good one to use as an example. And for those of you who don't know, international year one is an alternative year one where students normally, if their English language levels are slightly down or they just missed a few GPA points, they get additional support and they can, kind of make up in that year, up to the standard of the year two that they're going to go into. Mis-selling happens when a student turns up on campus and then suddenly realizes that I'm not being taught on the campus's main kind of classrooms. Okay. Somehow I don't go. I've come here to do mechanical engineering. During Freshers Week, I met a whole load of mechanical engineers that we all got together. But actually, they go to one classroom to study, and they're first year students. I have to go somewhere else, and that's when they figure out actually the international year one is not the same as the year one, and then they kick off. And they come to the international office, and I have personally dealt with cases like this, where they come to the international office and they say, what's going on? That actually I thought I was getting onto year one, and now I find out that I'm at some special college where people are not as clever as, the people going into year one, and I have to now go to this place and I'm doing a whole load of English that I don't want to do or I don't think I should do, blah, 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 blah. Let me
But
point
isn't it the case at times the student always plays a victim? Maybe the agent.
I'm just going to come on to that. You see, in that scenario, the student then acts completely like the victim. And the student forgets the conversation that they had back in their home country where they were nervous about going into the university because their grades were a little bit shaky or something was just not quite right. And they love the fact that the agent was able to give them the option of doing the international year one. Now that they've arrived on campus, they've forgotten all about that. And now they're saying, well, my agent told me. My agent told me that this is what I needed to do. I don't understand what's going on. I'm the victim here. That why am I'm not on the university's first year program. How is this going to work out? Blah, blah, blah. I have personally dealt with these kind of situations. And of course, that student didn't come to me directly. He or she went to student services or went to the student union. So already there's been this whole big conversation because student services, student union have turned around and said, oh my God, who's told you that you had to do that? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know how this happened. So then by the time it comes to me in the international office, it is so much bigger than what it used to be. Yes. And public enemy number one is the agent. Because the agent, and that's when the student comes up with adverts that the agent put out, 12 months ago and shows, here, look, here's the advert. Here, the agent put this out that you don't have the grades, no problem. You can still get in. And it then looks really bad. There's nothing technically wrong here, but it feels not good. And that's when the university feels like they need to do something about this. Okay. And it's not, but also sometimes if we say things by mistake as agents, right, we put something on advertising, it was an error, genuine error that we made. What the universities expect is that, okay, issue a retraction. And nobody likes issuing any kind of retractions. Nobody likes doing that.
And I think that's just a standard across all industry. Even if we see some news coming up in a newspaper, and then there is some edits or.
In my experience, man, nobody likes doing that because it's
but that's the worst case scenario. You have to do it just to save your skin in a way. No one wants to do it.
Yeah, but there is that, but I know immediately nobody's going to want to do this. Do you understand? They're going to feel like, oh my God. Look, the point of all of this, guys, if you've just joined us or if you're watching this, on a recorded version, look, the conversation that we're having here is about advertising. That we as agents, we are advertising all the time, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, whatever it is, or even, print media that we're using. The thing is that sometimes we may or may not be very vigilant as to what we're saying. Because again, if I'm the owner of a company, I've got a marketing guy somewhere, maybe not even in the country that I'm based in. Okay. I'm based here in the UK. I could have a marketing guy based in Chennai in India or based in Lagos in Abuja, or whatever it might be. Right. So I just say to this guy, hey, put some adverts out. And the guy then, because of the pressure I'm putting on them, he's putting out adverts, every day. And nobody's actually fact checking any of this stuff, right? Just going out.
A lot of times, what I have seen happening is that marketing guy, because he's under continuous pressure of putting assets out there, he is taking things off peers or any third-party website without actually fact checking whether that's right information or not.
This is so cool. And the fact of this session is that with certainly what's going on here in the UK, but it's happening in Canada, it's happening in Australia as well, guys. I can tell you this, that governments are asking universities to be more vigilant about what their agents are saying and not saying. Okay. So there are teams of people in universities that are scouring social media, that are scouring public places to see. In fact, I've also heard, and don't quote me on this, but I've heard that there are now AI, almost bot type programs that you can use to see who's saying, so you can put in your university name and you almost send it out there and it comes back to you with what's being said on social media. So people use that as well for negative reviews that people might have used and stuff like that, so you can pick it up. But if universities are doing that, if marketing teams are doing that, and we are not checking what it is that we are saying, because maybe it's not a core function, like I say, we've got an intern that's doing the marketing, or we've got a quite a junior level staff who's just out there putting marketing out there. As senior people in agencies, or as owners of our businesses, as people who care about our contracts, or if you're working with aggregators, with platforms, you're putting your platform at risk. So the people that you're actually working with, the aggregator, the master agents, you're putting those agents at risk by throwing out there, any kind of advert that hasn't been fact checked or doesn't feel right. So remember that, guys. One is facts. If you got the facts wrong, you're in trouble. But there's another area that you could also get yourselves into trouble, is where it doesn't feel right. It goes against the spirit of what the university or the government is trying to do. So the UK government wants to attract genuine students here in the UK, not migrants.
The best and the brightest.
Say again? The best and the brightest. Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you are putting out adverts that almost suggests, that you could be a migrant, that goes against the spirit of what the government is trying to do. I'll give you another example, right? And I know we're running out of time, but very quickly, I'm going to give an example. A lot of students, agents will say to me that the good thing about Canada and Australia is you can get PR, right? Well, actually, in the UK, there are certain professions that will give you almost the equivalent of PR. And one of the ones is nursing. There is a massive shortage of nursing in this country. If you can get your students to study nursing, and if they graduate, remember, these are the caveats, if they graduate and they register with the NMC, then it is very likely that the university that they trained with was attached to a NHS trust, that NHS trust is going to want to employ those students. And it doesn't matter which country they're from, right? Doesn't matter what passport they're holding. The NHS will then issue tier 2 visas, and actually this person can live and work in the UK. Now, if I went out tomorrow, put in an advert, want to emigrate to the UK? Come and talk to me. Do you understand? And I'm an education agent. That goes against the spirit of what the government is trying to say. Okay? Whereas if I put an advert out promoting nursing, and actually the value of working in the NHS, the career structure that's available for nurses here in the UK, and don't insinuate that this is a surefire, quick route into PR for the UK, that's a better advert.
Subtlety is the word, I guess.
Yeah. Rather than putting it there that, study nursing and you can have PR in the UK. You understand? That don't sound right, man. Although factually it's correct. Factually, it's undeniable that, actually, go and talk to the NHS. Ask the NHS this question. The NHS every day and twice on Sunday will tell you that, we'll give you a job. No problem. You understand? If you graduate, any nurse that graduates from a UK university in nursing, get a job like that. But you can't say that. It doesn't feel right to say that in an advert. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I have come up with a very bad example, maybe, but it's like going out on a date. You have to talk it through in a subtle way so that you get what you want, rather than just getting there from the get going.
I mean, actually, that's not a bad idea. Look, think of it like this: if you've got a dating site, right, and you put on the dating site, want to marry a rich guy, and that I'm the rich guy. You understand? Say I'm the rich guy. Want to marry a rich guy? How many women are going to be like, oh my good God, that's brilliant. Let's go after that. Do you know what I mean? So it is a bit like that. But look, you can't say that. It's not wrong. Maybe I am a rich guy, and I'm looking to get married. So actually, it's not wrong. But it doesn't
feel right,
It doesn't feel right, man. It's like it, and this is very important though, guys, because universities are becoming more and more vigilant because they're having to be vigilant, not because they've got a problem with agents, but because they're being hassled by people that they're reporting to. So I think this is an interesting topic, and I think we might come back to it at some other point in the future. But it is something that I would say anybody watching this, that you need to think about it. If you're an agent and you're putting out adverts, really read through. Obviously, check your facts, but equally think: does this go against the spirit of what we're trying to do? Does this feel right, or does this feel cheeky? Does it feel like it's a bit gray? Do you know what I mean? Because if it does, you might get into trouble with your universities. So just be conscious of that. Well, look, guys, we've done over half an hour today. I mean, I've got to learn to stop talking and talk less. You know what I mean?
Well, you haven't learned it this long, so there's
yeah,
more.
I'm old now, man. I don't think you know what they say. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I don't
Maybe
know.
we can. You didn't explain to find out.
Anyway, guys, listen, thank you so much for listening to myself, Sham, and Abir talking on a Thursday morning, 11 o'clock, Agent Box. We come to you every week, nearly every week. We are going to try and bring in some guests onto the show. We have had one or two in the past. I'd like to get some university partners to come and talk. It's interesting always, to get that angle to get some more insight on these kind of issues, right? Not, what's your entry criteria? Sell me your university. No, it's about the other smaller, subtle stuff behind the scenes. It's that insight that we want as agents into how universities think and feel, and how can we, maximize, our potentials with respect to that. Look, guys, with that, again, Agent Box comes to you. It's possible because of Sam CRM. Please go and have a look at their website. Get in touch with us on our email address or our phone number. Go and have a look at our website. Go and have a look at I think we've got a LinkedIn page, Facebook page. I don't know. We've got YouTube as well. Yeah, so you can watch previous episodes and stuff like that. We do appreciate your support. So get in touch with us. And that's it from me and Abir for this week. We'll come back to you.
Yeah, and just before we finish, we are celebrating International Women's Day shortly, and we have our Mother's. I think it's tomorrow, no, or today.
I know Mother's Day, certainly in the UK.
Mother's Day in the UK is in the weekend. So shout out to all the ladies and all the mothers. Thanks for everything that you do, and catch us live next week. Same
Absolutely.
time, same day.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye.